Hi, my name is Wendy Garflip from United Neighbors, and welcome to Inside Fall River. Today I have two guests with me. I'd like to introduce you to Kathleen Wilbur. Kathleen is the program manager at Seven Hills Behavioral Health Tobacco-Free Community Partnership. Welcome, Kathleen.
Thank
Good
you.
to have you. And then we have Judith Kirkendall. Nice to see you, Judith.
Good to see
who is
you.
a consultant for Seven Hills Behavioral Health Tobacco-Free Community Partnerships. And today we have some show and tell, and we're going to talk a little bit about e-cigarettes. So
Yes.
something that's really in the news. So Kathleen, let's start out. Tell us, what is an e-cigarette?
So e-cigarette stands for electronic cigarette, and it's a new device that has just kind of hit the market. This is a non-disposable e-cigarette, so they're a bit more expensive. And the whole idea behind e-cigarettes is that they have nicotine instead of tobacco. And you vape the nicotine, vaporize the nicotine instead of combustible cigarettes.
So instead of getting the regular smoke that you get from a cigarette, you're getting vapor like you would get from like a humidifier?
Something like that, right. So there's a battery inside of this that heats up and vaporizes the nicotine or whatever substance is inside, and then it kind of creates a vapor instead of a secondhand smoke. And so these come in a variety of flavors, sizes, and types. So this is a non-disposable e-cigarette. That's a little bit more expensive, and you put the nicotine liquid in yourself.
And this is how you
That is the charger.
charge it?
Yeah.
So it hooks up to any
USB
port?
or it has a little outlet plug.
Right, so you see.
And then this is a non-disposable e-cigarette. This is its package.
And how long does a non-disposable one last?
So it has about 400 puffs in it, which is equal about to two and a half packs of cigarettes. And these retail for about $10. So compared to one pack of cigarettes, you're kind of getting 2 packs worth of nicotine for one. And this is Cherry Crush flavored.
Interesting name, Cherry Crush.
And we forgot to show the liquid that is
Yes.
that is in that more expensive
Right.
non-disposable.
So these are the nicotine vials that you would buy to put in that non-disposable e-cigarette. This is s'mores flavored, and this is Swedish fish flavored.
You're kidding.
No.
So these are flavored like candy, and when you smoke them, do they taste like candy?
Yes.
So we're not really marketing these for adults, huh?
No.
No.
And that's the problem. So the non-disposable e-cigarettes also come in flavors, like this is Cherry Crush, but they have a little bit less variety in the flavors, but they're a little less expensive. And with the nicotine vials, you can quite literally get any flavor under the sun. There's apple pie, there's margarita, there's s'mores and Swedish fish, there's Captain Crunch. Really anything.
Chocolate
Yes.
mint.
So for someone who smokes cigarettes, does the transition to these e-cigarettes, is it, are they happy with the transition? Are they smoking less? Are they getting less? Tell us how it works and what it's all
Sure.
about.
Well, so some people are under the impression that e-cigarettes are cessation devices. The problem with e-cigarettes right now is that they're totally unregulated by the FDA. So we really we can't say anything surely about e-cigarettes.
Right, there's been no studies, they've been out too short a period of time.
They've been out too short a period of time to really see the long-term effects or have been regulated by the FDA, but there have been some studies that have come out. And generally, dual use is popping up. So people might leave their cigarettes behind for an e-cigarette for a while, but eventually it seems that some people at least are going back to using both cigarettes and e-cigarettes.
Right, I can't imagine that someone that smokes Marlboro would be satisfied with s'mores. It seems to be a whole different
Well, they
range.
might get the margarita flavor or the martini I mean, there's every flavor under the sun. And they might be using it when they can't smoke anywhere else. They're using this, of course, so they can smoke. Maybe they could smoke in a theater. And people wouldn't know. Maybe they could smoke at work and people wouldn't know.
Okay, so
and then
because
they go
it's
home.
vapor, there's no smoke that comes out so other people don't smell it, is that
Right, there
in
is a
essence what it
vapor
is?
that comes out, but it doesn't have that really potent smell like a cigarette does, and it's very hard to detect after 5 seconds.
You might
Okay, so
see a
let me
mist.
just take a step back for a second. So this is nicotine.
Yes.
I thought nicotine was the really bad thing in cigarettes. I thought tobacco was like okay, and it was the nicotine in the tobacco that was bad. So are they taking the most toxic chemical? Is that what's happening?
Well,
with this?
you're half right. Both tobacco and nicotine are overwhelmingly bad for your health. The difference is tobacco is something that will give you things like lung cancer, emphysema, things like that. The nicotine is going to give you a heart attack or a stroke. Raise your blood pressure. And it's highly addictive. So they have taken an addictive substance out of the cigarette and put it into a different form so that you can still be addicted to it.
So the smoker's using it to get the nicotine so they can smoke where they otherwise would not be able to.
So if you are addicted and you need it, does this satisfy your craving for cigarettes?
Yes.
Yes.
But you did say that many people go back to doing both. Why is that? Why do you think that happens?
Well, that's a good question. And, you know, as far as the whole studies of e-cigarettes go, it's a little early to have any conclusive decisions on that kind of thing. But like Judith said, people are smoking e-cigarettes where they're not allowed to smoke a cigarette.
Right,
At
so that's the
work.
next thing I wanted to ask you.
Yeah.
Right. So they're really not allowed where you're not allowed to smoke. But you can hide them better. Is that
Well,
what you're saying?
to be honest, in some towns in Massachusetts, I could light up an e-cigarette in a public building, in the library, in the town hall. And there's no rule telling me I can't.
There's no state law about that
There's
right
no
now.
What
state
about
law.
the smoke-free public housing?
That is where there are policies internal.
Right.
Yes.
So because I know that we'll get to utilizing this for something other than cigarettes, because I know that that has been an issue with medicinal marijuana, that in public housing you cannot use medicinal marijuana in a vaporized version.
Right.
Right. So yes. So we go town to town in our work, working with boards of health, asking them to regulate e-cigarettes as far as age of sale goes, and as far as smoking in the smoke-free workplace.
So there hasn't been any ordinances that have come down in Fall River yet, or is there any hope for that in Fall River?
In Fall River, I'm pretty sure you have a regulation.
Yes.
Maryland Edge is right on top of that.
Right.
And so you have a regulation not to sell it to minors
Yep.
and not to use it in public places. What we don't have is, I think in Fall River Housing Authority, I don't think they've adopted a policy. Whereas New Bedford Housing Authority, Fairhaven Housing Authority, Dartmouth Housing Authority, Taunton, lots of them have adopted smoke-free policies within their housing authority. But I don't think Fall River's done that as
Right,
yet.
but that's just the housing. We're not talking about government centers
Oh, right.
and other public buildings, the office
Right.
that I work in, the person next door. So
Right.
what's the effect of secondhand smoke with this? Is
With
there?
e-cigarettes?
Yeah.
Well, so that's the thing. A lot of people might say, no, it's not as harmful as secondhand smoke. And it might well come out that it's not as harmful as secondhand smoke. That's not to say it's not harmful. And there just isn't enough data back yet to say exactly what's in that vapor.
Right, it's sort of like, even, it might not be as terrible as you think, but it's still terrible.
Well, we just don't know. Polypropylene glycol is one of the things that's used to make this. And that's not a healthy chemical. And when we go to buy these products, when we went to buy this
The e-cigarette. yeah.
non-disposable, the gentleman was explaining that to us. It's polypropylene glycol. Well, that's something that's an antifreeze. So we're really not sure how healthy this is.
Right.
The FDA has it under investigation, but the FDA takes a very long time.
Right.
And Wendy, you probably remember it took 20 years for the FDA to regulate tobacco to begin
Right.
with.
Right.
So for them to have the time to really, these are manufactured all over the world. Some are manufactured in the U.S. with our own tobacco companies. They get you one way or the other.
Right, they're shifting from one to the other.
That's right, because they know this is really, really popular, and it's very popular with the youth, which is our biggest problem.
Right.
I'm
well,
not so
I do
concerned about the
remember
adults.
in college,
Yeah.
we smoked in class in college because they hadn't yet determined that it was bad, and we would cough our guts out in class. So I did want to point out, look at these things. These are definitely manufactured for children. Look at what they look like, the colors and the patterns on them. So what do you have to say about this? That
Right.
little falseness in advertising here. Because
Right.
these aren't supposed to be for children.
Absolutely not. And you know, there's a saying in our line of work that the tobacco industry is making these products cheap, sweet, and easy to get. So, for example, this is not, like you said, it's brightly colored, it's flavored, and it's 79 cents.
Wow.
What's the flavor for those who can't read it?
This is white grape, and then I have some others, just regular grape, strawberry.
This one is strawberry. But this is the one that's really getting to me. The pink packaging called Entourage. This is for little girls. That's what this is.
Little
this looks like
princesses.
Barbie.
Yeah.
Right, little crown
Absolutely.
on it too. So this is,
Yep. And if you notice these, they can almost be mistaken for fruit roll-ups.
Yes.
or something like that.
This is made in Nicaragua, and it says these cigars are predominantly natural tobacco with non-tobacco ingredients added, as if natural tobacco is okay as
Right.
opposed to non-natural tobacco. Interesting, very, very interesting. So tell me why these are so bad for kids and kids' brains and nicotine, and talk a little bit about that.
Sure. Well, so like we said earlier, nicotine is going to give you a heart attack. It's going to give you a stroke, and it's highly addictive. So the tobacco industry is noticing that cigarette smoking is declining, especially among younger people, regular combustible cigarettes. So with the e-cigarettes especially, they're trying to think of new ways to hook new users. Now, e-cigarettes are cool. They look like pens.
They do.
They don't look like a cigarette that the younger generations have come to know as bad for you and poisonous. So, and they come in flavors, which is a big, big hook for kids. And all these products we have up here are flavored. This is a blunt wrap watermelon. This is
Okay, explain what a blunt wrap is.
So a blunt wrap.
Can I take one out
Absolutely.
so people can see? Yeah. So what is a blunt wrap?
A blunt wrap is a pre-rolled tobacco leaf. That one's a little bit stale, so it's cracking. And what you do is you unroll it and put your tobacco in it, or your marijuana.
Right.
And it has a flavor to it, so that when you smoke it, you're getting a bit of a flavor
Oh, yeah.
there. Yeah.
It does smell like watermelon.
Yes, they all smell very
Terrible
good.
watermelon, but
Yeah, it sure smells better than regular tobacco to a
Right.
young person who's not been initiated yet to
Right.
the flavor of tobacco.
right.
Right.
We all know that if you really smoke, you really enjoy the flavor of tobacco. So clearly, this is being targeting to our kids. And we were so excited, because I've been doing this work for 20 years, that we saw the youth smoking rate dive over 20 years in Massachusetts.
Right. I think we
Very
have
happy.
some graphs on the youth smoking rate that maybe we can put up so we can see. So how is it? How much has it gone down, the youth smoking?
Well, it went down to about 15, but now the graph goes the other way with the usage of the kids.
The e-cigarettes.
kids are using the e-cigarettes on the rise.
Yes.
So what we thought we had accomplished is being undone. And the youth will eventually try regular cigarettes, because
Correct.
once you really become addicted to tobacco, that's oftentimes what you really want.
Right.
Right.
So if I am putting liquid nicotine into my e-cigarette, how do I know how much I'm smoking?
Well, that's a great
Yeah.
question. And so with a pack of cigarettes, you're physically seeing how many cigarettes you're going
It's
through.
20 in a pack. You know
Right.
how long it takes you to
How long
smoke
it
20
takes.
cigarettes, right?
With an e-cigarette, it's much harder to measure. So these vials are 1.6 milligrams, which means they have about as much nicotine as in an entire pack of cigarettes. Now, they sell e-cigarette accessories so that you can hang them around your neck, or kind of like a keychain for them. So if I have this around my neck all day and I'm just puffing and puffing,
You have no idea.
you're not really monitoring how much nicotine you're intaking or how many packs of cigarettes that's equivalent to. So there's definitely, the tendency to overdo it.
I saw something shocking with, you said you're hanging it around your neck. We had a program with some families, and there were a number of men that had it hanging around their neck, and they were holding their babies. And the baby was sucking on the nipple part of this. And I said something, and they said, oh, it's not on, so they're not getting anything. But I can't imagine that was a good thing
Right.
to put in a baby's mouth.
No.
It seems sort of
Well, just from a
counterintuitive.
public health standpoint, I've been putting it in my mouth all day.
Right,
now
that's
the
true,
child
too,
is
right.
taking any
Right.
bacteria
Yeah.
from
Right,
my mouth.
but the nicotine,
Nicotine
is
is still
coming
there.
through this, so there is some remnants of the baby
Absolutely.
getting that nicotine.
Absolutely, and it's
Right.
funny you bring up children and e-cigarettes, actually, because since e-cigarettes have kind of become so popular, poison control centers at hospitals all around the country have had a huge spike in toddlers getting these caps off and downing it.
Well, I can imagine that
Right.
young children who can't read would think that this was fruit roll-ups or candy or
Absolutely.
mints
It's
or
colorful
something like
liquid,
that.
it looks like juice.
So tell us, what does nicotine do to the adolescent and the teen brain? Why is it so bad for kids?
Well, it gets you hooked and it gets you addicted, and nicotine addiction is a really, really powerful thing. There have been studies done that say it's harder to quit smoking than it is to quit using heroin. That's how powerful the addiction to nicotine can be.
And with an adolescent brain, the tragedy is if I'm trying this and I'm 12, 13, 14, I'm changing the brain chemistry.
Right.
of my brain. Your brain, we now know, we didn't know when we were young, that your brain does not mature till you're 25. So that, and what the part of the brain that doesn't mature until later is decision making and choices. Now we all look back at our teenage years. Does
So
that
now
make
I
sense?
understand.
Now I understand. So they're going to change their brain chemistry. Once you put one addictive product into your brain, whether it's alcohol, cocaine, heroin, whatever, at that young age, you have opened yourself up to every addiction. In other words, if you're going to try alcohol later on, you are more likely to become addicted. So it's very
And
scary.
if you already have the chemistry from genetics, it's even more so.
Right.
Right. I think of Mark Twain's famous quote, I could stop smoking, I've done it 100 times.
Right.
Right. So, okay, so let's talk a little bit about Big Tobacco. What is their role in all this?
Well, as I said earlier, Big Tobacco is the driving force behind hooking their new customers. They're a business. They're always looking to see how they can get their next lifelong buyer. So they're making their products cheap, sweet, and easy to get. So we talked a little bit about how these cigarillos are 79 cents, which is less than a bag of chips at lunch for most kids. We talked about how these are sweet, they're passion fruit flavored, they're blueberry, and they're easy to get. Adults might not notice, but the next time you go into a convenience store, look around and see where the tobacco products are. They're usually at a child's eye level.
Really?
And sometimes they're towards the front, and if you see these electronic cigarettes on the counter, they're in a locked case, but they're right there. And that's going for the teenager, not the adult who's looking right at the cashier.
So we have a cigarette ban in the big box here in Fall River in the pharmacies. Can they sell this, or does
No.
that cigarette ban covers this as well?
It covers all tobacco products.
Okay.
Yes.
And if they write the regulation locally correctly, again, this is the Board of Health of each community writing their regulation based on technical assistance from people like Kathy. It turns out that some towns say that pharmacies can't do that and others. But basically, when a pharmacy decides to take tobacco products and they know that this is the policy of their community, everything comes off. Yeah. See, the definition is the hard part. This little cigar is a tobacco product, but an e-cigarette isn't a tobacco product.
Right.
So that's why each town has to go back and look at their regulation, and Board of Health regulation, and make sure it is up to date and covering these things, and also covering what you brought up, Wendy, about we can't use e-cigarettes anywhere that you cannot use tobacco.
Right.
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 That's
and
very
I've been
important.
to restaurants where I see people reach over, they take a puff or two, they put it back down again. You're not really conscious of it because you
Right.
don't smell the smoke like you
Right.
did when people were smoking in restaurants.
Right.
Right. And we sometimes forget what that was like, but that there were restaurants we didn't go to because there was so much smoke in those restaurants. So, yeah, that's. I understand there's been a recent decision by the Massachusetts Attorney General about e-cigarettes. Can you talk a little bit about that?
It's a discussion right now.
Right.
I'm not sure there was a hearing on Friday?
Yep.
On Friday. So I'm not sure she has made her decision yet. But
She is proposing, what's being discussed and what will hopefully go through, is that she is proposing that we regulate the sale of e-cigarettes to only be sold to 18-year-olds and over, as tobacco is regulated
Wait, so right now, a 12-year-old can buy any of these things? A
in
7-year-old
some
can buy
towns,
any of these
in
things?
some towns,
Where there aren't bans?
where the local board of health has not acted in Massachusetts to raise the age of sale for e-cigarettes themselves, a 7-year-old could effectively walk into a store and purchase an e-cigarette
so
legally.
that sounds
I
like
don't want to
a
name
really
the towns.
bad thing.
I don't want to name the towns, but some of them are in this area.
In this area. So our kids could go from Fall River to a local town nearby and they can purchase these things.
Yes.
And we're not going to say them because we don't want to send people there to buy
That's
them,
right.
that's for sure.
Right.
That's pretty scary. That's
Yes.
pretty scary. And we do know that, if your brain's not fully developed, like adolescents and teens, that this is going to make a big impact on them.
For the rest of their lives.
Is this safer than regular cigarettes?
That is the question of the hour. So again, it might sound repetitive, but there is no data or scientific evidence back on e-cigarettes. So we really can't sit here and say that it's safer. We don't have the long-term evidence to say if they cause cancer, to say how many strokes and heart attacks are a result of smoking an e-cigarette. Generally, e-cigarettes have little to no tobacco in them, so by that measure, they're safer. but
But
it's
if you're
really
getting
like
more
a picking your
nicotine,
poison.
right. So
Right.
we could see that happening.
Right.
That's pretty scary. So what else can you smoke in an e-cigarette? Because
Oh.
I've seen what I've seen people smoking is not tobacco in an e-cigarette. Right.
Well, the problem with these cigarettes is that it vaporizes whatever liquid you put into it. It's not nicotine only. So we've heard stories of people vaping marijuana and THC in e-cigarettes.
And THC you can get in liquid form.
Yes, you
Absolutely.
can.
Right.
We've also heard of people vaping heroin in e-cigarettes. Bar owners are having problems where people are coming into their bar, not ordering drinks, and still leaving intoxicated. And they're finding out that people aren't just vaping nicotines in e-cigarettes. And the problem is, who's to say what liquid is in my e-cigarette?
So you could vape alcohol, you're saying, in an e-cigarette?
Well, you can vape other drugs than nicotine
Right.
in an e-cigarette. You
Heroin, cocaine,
Heroin,
liquefied.
Liquefied versions, right.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
That's pretty scary.
Right.
And it's pretty hard to determine what's in it. And
Right.
what's the effect of secondhand smoke?
Right.
Right.
And another thing to remember about the liquid that goes into e-cigarettes is that a lot of e-cigarettes, since they're unregulated, can put basically whatever they want on their packages. So they did a study of 10 e-cigarette brands that said that there were no nicotine in them, just water vapor. And 9 out of 10 of the brands that said they contained no nicotine did contain nicotine. But legally, right now, they're allowed to lie on their packaging and say nicotine-free.
Right. So I think that's important for people to know, because very often we think there's something called truth in advertising, and that we often think that, oh, they can't put it down on the package if it's not really true. But we just heard that's not the case. They can write whatever they want on that package.
For now.
So, for now.
For now.
Right. And hopefully that will change as we get there. So tell me about if people want to quit. Is it harder to quit from this stuff? Is it harder to quit from vapor than from cigarettes? And then I also want to talk about this before we end too.
So, well, it's important to remember that quitting nicotine, an e-cigarette addiction or a cigarette addiction is extremely, extremely difficult. And on average, it takes a person 7 tries to successfully quit smoking. But there is help available, especially to smokers in Massachusetts who are looking to quit. So there are insurance benefits where you can get your patch or your lozenge down to a copay of $3 to $5, which makes it pretty affordable. Those products can
that would be Mass
expensive.
Health.
Right, Mass Health.
So through Mass Health, you can get help in quitting.
Yes. Also, we have a quit line that people can call for free. It's 1-800-QUIT-NOW. And they do a quick intake to talk about your smoking habits. And then not only do you receive free phone counseling once a week, but you can get up to 4 weeks of free patches through the quit line. So that's an important resource for people to take advantage of too. They can do it while they're driving to work or at home while they're cooking dinner, and they don't have to go out of their way or spend a lot of money to receive some counseling to help them quit smoking.
And people who are at that 7th time, okay, and they quit smoking, is there recidivism? Do lots of people go back to smoking once you quit? Can you keep that way? What are some good hints to help you stay that way?
Sure. So, it's a hard addiction to quit, like I said. So, of course, there are some people that have their relapses or might quit for a few years and go back. With some tips and tricks, there are ways to help you stave off those cravings. Medicine, like the patch, the pill, things like that really help people. Counseling has been proven to really help people, whether it's over the phone or in person. And also just little tricks, like if you have your cigarette in the morning, instead have a cup of green tea. Or if you have your cigarette after lunch, instead go for a walk. Drinking water.
Change your pattern of behavior.
Right.
If you smoke in your car, keep healthy snacks or gum in your car instead. Things like that. And so there's a lot of great tips out there that can help people kind of delay and change their mindsets a little.
One of the new medications that I think we really like to promote is Chantix. Have you heard of it?
I've seen the commercials for Chantix. yes.
Okay. It interferes with the pathway to the brain, the pleasure pathway to the brain. And people who've used Chantix successfully, and there are those that many have, they say it's the miracle for them. There is a very small percentage of users of Chantix that might have bad side effects. But
That's true basically with every medication,
That's right.
Right.
And the beauty of it is, unlike some medications where you might get on a medication like Wellbutrin to help quit smoking, you can't just stop taking it. You have to titer off, wean yourself off. Well, if you're on Chantix and you're suddenly having, for example, bad dreams, and you don't want those bad dreams anymore, or you're getting very depressed, you can stop taking the pill that day, and it goes away.
So, but for the majority of people that use the Chantix, is that-
Chantix.
Chantix, how long does it take before they wean themselves off of cigarettes, before they're
Well,
non-smokers?
it depends on the person
Right.
and what they're doing
On
and the
average.
counseling and so forth. But you could be off of it in a couple months, because what you do when you're with Chantix, you don't have to quit smoking. Like when you put the patch on, you don't want to smoke a lot.
Right, because the patch puts nicotine into your body.
Exactly.
Right.
So, but what if you're on Chantix, you can continue to smoke. No safety problem.
And what happens? You just lose your
You
desire?
just lose your desire. For example, as a smoker, we all know that we have our cigarette first thing in the morning, and then we take a break at 10 in the morning,
Right.
and then noon, and we've got it scheduled to the minute. And if it's at 5 after 10, you start angsting.
Right.
You need to get out of the workplace and out there. You're at work on Chantix, and you're working away, and you're on the phone, and all of a sudden you look up and you think, it's 11 a.m. I forgot to smoke. And that's the most surprising thing for a smoker. I
Right.
forgot to smoke.
Right.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of Chantix. And when it works really well.
This is very disturbing that this is marketed to youth. Is there anything that youth are doing to stand up for this, to stand up against big tobacco?
Absolutely. So we have this great organization that we partner with called the 84 Movement. And the name comes from when the organization was started, 84% of teenagers and high school students in Massachusetts didn't smoke.
Did not smoke.
Did not smoke. Now it's up to 89%.
Oh, that's
so
pretty
it's
good.
rising every day, and it's a great organization to get involved with. So what high school students can do is, if they're upset by the way that big tobacco is targeting them with these products, and they're sick of seeing their friends getting addicted to something that's harming their health so much, they can start a chapter in their church, in their community group, in their school, and they can join the fight against big tobacco. And once a year, we have Kick Butts Day in March, which is when we all go to the State House and the youth speak directly to legislators and ask them to pay attention to the problem, to advocate in their communities, and to stick up for the health of youth in Massachusetts. So it's a great, great movement, and anyone can get involved. The 84movement.org is the website.
84movement.org.
Yes.
And I'm pretty sure we have one here at Durfee.
We do.
If I'm not mistaken.
Yes,
That's run
there's a
by
great
one of our
chapter.
AmeriCorps members, Jess, right?
Yes, there's
Right.
a great
That's great.
chapter here in Fall River.
And I do want to remind Fall River residents that it was our youth who brought about the Fall River Youth Bill of Rights, which subsequently brought about the tobacco ban here in Fall River.
pharmacy ban
Right, the
on the
pharmacy
sale of
ban
tobacco
on the
in
sale of
pharmacies.
tobacco. That it was youth that stood up, and youth that went to city council members, and youth that said, in the Bill of Rights, you said we were going to have a healthy community, you said that this was going to be a good place for us to live, and you have to vote for this ban to make it happen. So youth voice really made a difference here.
It made a huge difference in Fall River, because I think the group went back to the city
council for a second
many,
vote.
many times, and they would not give up till it was done.
Right.
I mean, it really shows that youth do have a voice, a very powerful voice.
So, and you have a voice too. You have a voice to talk about this with your children and your grandchildren, and let them know that someone is trying to deceive them. That's why it's pink, and that's why it looks like Barbie. So be aware of what's going on. Tell us the websites where people can go before we end up.
MakeSmokingHistory.org has a wealth of resources for quitting, for learning about the dangers, all things like that. And the 84, the number 84, movement.org is for high school students that want to get involved.
So I'd like to thank Kathleen and Judith for joining us today.
Thanks for
Seven
having
Hills
us.
Behavioral Center, Tobacco-Free Community Partnerships. It's been a pleasure, and there's so much more to learn about this. Thank you, ladies.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Wendy.
Wendy.